Hey, welcome everybody to this video. So in the last video in the field I captured a bunch of images at the seascape, and in this video I want to take you through two images and show you the editing and post-processing process to get to the final images, which include this one and this one. I want to start with this image right over here, and I've shot this exact composition in two different scenarios. So this one was the first one. This was shortly before the sun set, so it was just kind of passing the horizon. And this one was shortly after. And I've basically gave both of them similar edit. It's not quite the same, adjusted to the image. And to be honest, I like this one quite a lot more. It's a lot more dreamy, it's a lot more ethereal. The colors are so much more pastel. This is why I think I'm just gonna take this out, and I'm gonna go with this one because this is the one I much prefer over the other one. So now I have the raw file, and how I typically process my image is that I have a bunch of presets over here for different scenarios. So I have like black and white and basic stuff and sunset and whatever. And then I just cycle through them and select one that fits and use it as a baseline to further process the image. So I'm just going to select this one as a baseline. Now, as I said, I want to go for a very ethereal and dreamy look. It was a super simplistic scene, there's not much going on. We had amazing colors from the sunset. So the first thing I want to do to give this kind of like this soft, dreamy look is to go over here in the picture profile and select natural. This is a kind of flatter profile, so the contrast is less, there's less saturation. The contrast curve of the profile is flatter. I can just show you a comparison. If I go to standard or like default, you can see it's more saturated, there's more contrast. This is why I choose to go with the natural one, because it has kind of like a softer, more flat look by nature. Then you can see we have some dust spot over here. That's just, you can activate this tool, and then you can just quickly remove these. Lightroom does a super simplistic, easy job. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a couple of these, bam, bam, bam. There we go, dust spots removed. Obviously, if I was going to print this image, I'd go much cleaner onto this very fine detail spot. For the purpose of this video, this is more than enough. Okay, so then I want to straighten the image. You can see it kind of, it's not straight. So I'm going to use this tool, mark out the line, and basically Lightroom is going to, you can draw in a line where the horizon was, and then Lightroom is going to straighten it automatically. And there we go, now we have a straight image. Now, looking over this image, it's even more dreamy, the colors are even more soft. First of all, this image contains mostly blue. So I'm gonna go down here and go to blue, and then I'm gonna make it just a little tiny bit more soft, kind of going into the direction of this kind of baby blue tone. That's what I want to go for. Then I'm gonna increase the saturation just a tiny bit, and then also luminance. Luminance is also gonna kind of light it up and decrease the contrast, lighten up the image, and this is going to further amplify the effect that I'm going for, just like that. So a very small but subtle change. I think this is already a little bit too strong. There we go. So to further go into this dreamy, ethereal look that I'm going for, I'm going to reduce the clarity to a negative value, and then also the structure. So by reducing the structure, you can see I am losing some detail. If I were to increase it, there would be more sharpness, more detail. By decreasing it, I am losing a little bit of detail. It doesn't matter at all, because this image is only going to be looked at as a whole. There's no one going to be pixel peeping onto the single pole over here. This image stands on its own as a whole image. Now the next thing, this image kind of looks a little bit flat. So I want to lighten it up without adding too much contrast. So I am going to add a little bit of contrast and then sharply increase the whites, so it actually looks like it's being lit up by the sun as it was. This is kind of lightens the image in a way that it brightens it, but it still keeps the super flat and dreamy look. So that's what I'm going for. Just in case you might wonder, I have not added any sharpening to this image. This was just a default from the preset. That's perfectly fine. It's very close to the default values of Lightroom. And also there's no noise reduction I could add a lot of noise reduction. This would kind of even give me a more dreamy look, but it's not necessary. Just going to reduce a lot of the detail that's still there. And you can see if I put on the noise, it does become a little bit softer. That's what the noise reduction, how it works. I don't need it, that the image looks great. Also, I'm not adding a vignette. You can see if I were to add a vignette, it would kind of like defeat the point of having this very soft bluish tone. It would just darken it in the corners. So I'm not going for that. So at this point, I'm pretty much done with the post-processing of this image. You can see they both look very similar. So I'm going to go to the other image, which is right over here. And I'm going to show you how I process this one. I'd quickly like to mention my photography course. It's the first link in the description, where I teach you everything you need to know about landscape photography. So basics, techniques, camera settings. I have a long section on post-processing where I go into even further detail than this one. Just have a look at that, you might be interested. So the way that I'm going to process this image is pretty much similar to the one before. I'm just going to select a profile that works just fine, a preset in Lightroom. Again, I want it to be very soft. You can see it had a very soft tone. It was kind of bright. It was pastel colors, looked beautiful. And that's what I want to go for again. So I think I'm just gonna increase the blues a little bit. So go a little bit further to the left hand side, cool it a little bit off. I am gonna come back to the warmer tones over here. So the beach and the rocks and the sea bridge over here, just in a second. Then I'm gonna increase the whites again, just to kind of brighten it, even out the contrast even more. There's more than enough contrast in this image, so nothing necessary to add. I think I could even reduce it, but I think I'm just gonna reduce the dehaze. Now in this instance, I don't wanna reduce the clarity and structure even further. I added just a little bit because I wanted to have structure on the rocks and also on the sea bridge. Then again, I first of all want to change the yellowish tone because I want to have some color contrast between these very soft blues, and then I want it to be more into orange. So I'm going to change the yellowish tone to more of an orange hue. Just a tiny little bit, maybe like that. Increase the saturation a little bit. And you can see this is a very subtle change, but it does add atmosphere. Just because the setting sun obviously has more of an orange glow, and it adds color contrast between the blue and the yellow. Then again, the blue kind of soften it a little bit into this more baby bluish tone. Doesn't have to be much, it's already pretty much good. Increase the saturation a little bit. And then again, the lightness or luminance just a tiny bit. There we go. So down here on the color grading tab, the lights are on by default as with the presets that I've selected, and I'm going to leave it on that because if I were to turn it off, it would just be way too contrasty and saturated. And I was going for the soft look, kind of pastel colors. That's what I'm going to keep it on. Again, over here, I have some more sharpening, just because I want the rocks to be sharp, as I mentioned before. Again, no noise reduction. I've added a little bit of vignette. Just because the corners were very bright in this image, and I want the attention to be focused kind of like in the middle on these rocks, on the sea bridge, on the watercolor. And there we go. This is how I process these two images from the field. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to watch the in-field video if you haven't, where I shot these images. It was a beautiful evening. I got some amazing images. Thank you for watching.